Hi you guys, I had just finished a page and I used the stripe paper on it, and I was about to put it away thinking I didn't want to make a card using the stripe paper, and I flipped it over and thought, well, that's the perfect paper for a birthday card. So I pulled out a happy birthday stamp from May Made It and a scrap of this really dark teal that matches the darkest color in that paper. And I already had a scrap of red on my desk. And I also pulled out some glitter. So I've cut 3 little balloons on my Cricut, 1 out of the glitter paper and 2 out of the red. And now I'm just pulling out a couple of different inks to see what ink I can do the title in. I want to do a multicolored stamped title. So I just pulled out a little scrap of paper and I'm just going to test a couple of different colors. This one is Uncharted Mariner, and then I pull out Peacock Feathers to check it, and the Uncharted Mariner is the clear winner, and then this is Lumberjack Plaid. And I know that that real red that I have over to the side is really dark, and even darker than the Lumberjack Plaid. So I'm happy with these. I will take advantage of these little, shine holes in the balloons at the end. But first, I'm just checking some different pens to see what might work in those little cutouts. And I have some silver Nuvo drops, and I think that's what I'm going to end up using. So I'm going to, I go to cut this on my trimmer and decide, no, let's use a die. So it doesn't take long for me to get those. These are from Spellbinders, and they are nested A2 sized matte dies. I've been using them quite a bit lately. This one will just do a not stitched but pierced outline, and I was going to use another one for the inside, but I don't want that big a border of it, so I will use on the teal. I'll use this die on the teal, but I'm going to hand cut or trimmer cut the balloon paper because I want a smaller die than the nested dies would give me. So I'm going just inside that pierced look. And I'm trying to measure it here and trying to figure out, and I end up, I cut one using the measurement, and then I do one with just a tick mark because it's a little easier, because it's not on an even 1/8 of an inch or anything like that. So just getting that cut. And then to get the length of it. And I decide to do this card in landscape, partly because the sentiment is so wide, so it would fill up almost the whole width of the card had I done it in portrait mode, because I picked a pretty big sentiment, which I wanted it big and bold. I wish this happy was just a tiny bit smaller, so I could have used a little bit smaller sentiment papers, but it works out fine. Except this first time that I do it, this happy comes out great, And then I get a little hair or thread on the birthday that I don't see, or it comes, maybe it came off of the ink pad, but you may not be able to see it on the video, but by the, I think the H, there's a little hair that added dye. So we're going to start again. I do keep this. I'm going to try and cover that with some white gel pen and see if I can salvage that for another card. But since I had everything out, I went ahead and did this, re-stamped it, but just in reverse order, which makes me nervous when you're using a somewhat dirty stamp here on a clean white sheet of paper. And so I did get a little bit of red on there, but it was where the happy was going anyway. So, and this time I only needed to stamp it once. Then I look at these, I look at several different die sets to see what will fit. And as I said, that word happy is pretty big. So I decide those are not going to work, and I pull out a couple of others. And that is a little tight. It's not tall enough. I have one more option, which is what I end up using. So I decide that one is really too big, especially by the time you do a mat on it. So my last option is these sort of ticket shaped dies, and it's a very tight fit. I have to tape it to get it to fit, but that's okay. It works out. So I do tape that down, and then I also cut a mat out of that paper. I did edit this video. I'm not that fast at using the die machine, but you probably figured that out. So I'm happy with that. It's still pretty big, but I think it'll work out. Just going to use my stamp cleaner before I end up setting something on top of those stamps and getting ink everywhere. And now it's time to assemble. So first step I decide to do, since the red paper was a little bit brighter than the lumberjack plaid, I'm going to add a little lumberjack plaid ink to the edges, just to give these balloons a little dimension and help them stand out a little bit more and sort of more cohesive with the happy word stamped. So I think about doing them like this, and then I wouldn't get any length of the ties if I put them all the way, you know, if I squared everything up. So I decide I'm just going to offset them and just assemble the pieces together. I do want to pop the sentiment up, and then I will also pop up the glitter balloon. I did cut these balloons on my Cricut. I think I said that earlier. It's just really fun paper. And I just love the turquoise and red together. It's such a great combination. And white. It's just a really nice combination. So I fuss around with this a little bit. I just tie a little granny knot, and it's easier to tie it first and then put the little bottom of the balloon around it. I decide I'm going to keep that on the front and then just add a little dollop of glue to sort of get it held in place, and let that sit and dry, and do 2 more. So it's a little fussy, but the effect is worth it. This string that I'm using is from Stampin' Up, and it's a little bit elastic. So it does tie pretty well, but you can also, you know, manipulate it, stretch it into place. And then I realize I need the little white shine parts on the balloons, so I just cut some little scrap white to make that work. And then one last string. And I do trim these ends as well afterwards, so there's just a little short end showing. Then it's just a matter of getting things positioned. And I really couldn't, I don't think I could have dealt with any more balloons. I think 3 was the right number for this. And then what I'm going to do is take another piece of that sort of silver string, twine, and tie a bow around the bottom of the ribbon, the balloon ribbons. So these go flat on. And then I'm going to stand up that glitter. The glitter looks brighter here on the TV, but in real life it's a pretty, that dark teal. So now I have to fuss around and tie a bow. I do manage to do it. And I will glue that down. I don't glue down the strings. I sort of let them be a little bit loose. But I just want a little small bow on there and trim all the bits. Glue that, and I actually put a block on top of it, I think, at some point to sort of hold it in place while it dries. And this glue likes a little bit of pressure as well. And I take a clear shimmer, but it's not enough. It's not effective enough. So I go back to my original plan, which is the silvery Nuvo drops. And I just add those into the little crevice. And there is also a little cutout on the glitter balloon, but you can't really see it through the glitter. But I add a little bit of that. And then I'm just sort of leveling it out with my pokey tool there. And then add a couple more Nuvo drops to the sentiment, and that's about it. And we'll take a look at the card back in real time. The rest of this video has been 3 times speed. All right, there you have it. A fun, bold, happy birthday card.